First came the Magic Kingdom. Then the incredible Epcot Center. Now comes the new Disney MGM Studios theme park. Newsweek declares it fulfills Walt Disney's wildest dream. The new Disney MGM Studios theme park is mind-boggling new things to see and do. It's a dazzling new high-tech playground. The Disney MGM Studios theme park at Walt Disney World in Florida.
Welcome everyone to Destinations Disney and Universal. It is the early 1980s, and a company known as Universal has just purchased land in Orlando, coming right into Disney territory. What resulted was a movie-based theme park race between the two companies. In this episode of Destinations Discovery, we will look at the Disney park which has undergone the most changes since its opening in 1989, going from a television and movie studio concept to the theme park we all know and love today. We will also take a tour of the current park, highlighting some of the best rides and attractions. With all that out of the way, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get right into Destinations Discovery, starring Disney's Hollywood Studios. In the early 1980s, the movie-based theme park race was on. Universal had just purchased land in Orlando, but their parent company, MCA, was reluctant to finance the park by themselves. During their rapid search for funders and investors, MCA reached out to Paramount, who, at the time, was headed by none other than Michael Eisner. The deal between MCA and Paramount eventually fell through, and Universal's Orlando park was temporarily postponed. Simultaneously, a team of Imagineers led by Marty Schuyler and Randy Bright had been given the task of creating a Hollywood-based pavilion in Epcot. The Imagineers developed the Wonders of Life and Great Movie Ride pavilions, which would have sat between the Land and Journey into Imagination pavilions. However, Disney soon found a new CEO. Michael Eisner left Paramount and was hired by Disney as their new chief executive officer. Having full knowledge of the theme park Universal was planning to build due to his failed negotiations with the company when he was leading Paramount, Eisner set his sights on building a movie-based theme park which would open before what would later be known as Universal Studios. Eisner saw the plans for the Epcot Pavilion and, instead, wanted those plans to be the anchor of the new Disney park. Eisner also wanted to obtain what Universal was struggling to find at the time, a funder/partner. So, in 1985, Eisner and Disney secured a licensing contract with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, better known as MGM. The contract gave Disney the worldwide rights to use the MGM brand and logo, including working production facilities for films and television shows, as well as a backlot and satellite animation studio, which was located in the park and began being used before the park's debut. Disney openly stated that the idea was for the park to become a working movie studio to rival Hollywood, as well as a theme park. The Backlot Tour would be full of props from the movies and shows filmed at the park. Disney filmed several feature films at the park prior to the park opening to the public, including Ernest Saves Christmas in 1988. This did not sit well with MGM, who filed a lawsuit against Disney, alleging that Disney using the park as a working production studio violated the terms of the contract. Disney responded with a countersuit, and the case was eventually settled in 1992. The ruling allowed Disney to continue using the MGM name and logo on films produced at the theme park facility, and allowed MGM to open a movie-based theme park of its own, which they did in Las Vegas in 1993, but that eventually closed in 2000. Aside from television shows and movies, the facilities at the park included the previously mentioned animation studio, which Disney named Walt Disney Feature Animation Florida. The studio was responsible for animated TV shows and shorts, such as The Lion King and Hunchback of Notre Dame series, and smash hit movies like Mulan and Lilo and Stitch. Finally, despite Universal announcing their new park first, Disney MGM Studios opened a year earlier in 1989. The park opened with just 2 attractions, the Backlot Tour, which was the premier attraction, and the Great Movie Ride, located inside a replica of the Chinese Theater. In the future, I plan on doing a series on this channel called Destination Evolution, where we will look at original rides and attractions in each park, and the rides and attractions that eventually replaced them, and give a review and comparison of the two. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel so you don't miss that series. But, to briefly describe the attractions, the Backlot Tour originally was a 35-minute attraction, which was a combination of a tram and walking tour of the backlot area of the park. The ride would take guests through New York Street/Streets of America and to an area called Catastrophe Canyon. The tour was split into 2 halves, with guests being given a break in between at an area called Studio Catering Company, which was a restaurant and adjacent shop. The second half of the tour was a walking tour, which took guests to a water special effects tank, an effects shop, and working sound stages. The Great Movie Ride was an iconic attraction in its own right. This was a dark ride which used audio animatronics, practical sets, live actors, special effects, and projections to take guests through scenes from 12 classic films throughout movie history. That was it, folks. The only 2 opening day attractions for the park. Star Tours and the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular would come later in the year, but keep in mind, when looking at the original map, that the park was designed to be a movie studio first and a theme park second. For several years in the early 90s, Orlando was thought to be becoming the new Hollywood East. Disney tried inviting celebrity guests to the park and having them participate in a handprint ceremony and be the Grand Marshal in the afternoon parade. The park also opened with a few shows, such as the Monster Sound Show, which closed in 1996, Superstar Television, which used a blue screen to add audience members into scenes from popular television shows, which would close in 1998, and a closure feature animation, which showed guests a Peter Pan-based short, and afterwards, guests could watch animators at work behind a glass wall. The issue Disney and the Orlando area ran into was that California was simply too strong and too well established in the realm of movie making and television production. This caused Disney to shift gears with the park and focus more on it being an actual theme park and less around the idea of a movie and television studio. Sunset Boulevard was added in 1994, which recreated a classic Hollywood street from the golden age of Hollywood and included one of the most iconic attractions in the park, the Tower of Terror. Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith was also added to Sunset Boulevard in 1999. Much of the Backlot Tour was converted into additional attractions, which themselves went through many changes until Toy Story Land and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge were added in 2018 and 2019, respectively. The motion simulator Star Tours would open later in 1989 and was located in the Echo Lake section of the park. The ride does still exist, although it was rethemed to Star Tours The Adventure Continues in 3D on June 3, 2011. In 2001, to commemorate the 100-year birthday of Walt Disney, a 122-foot sorcerer's hat was constructed in the park in front of what was then the Great Movie Ride. It was inspired by the Sorcerer's Apprentice segment in the 1940 film Fantasia. Mickey's gloved hand and ears underneath the hat were visible, emerging from the ground. It replaced the Earful Tower as the park's icon in marketing material. The structure was completely removed in 2015, and pieces of the structure were used in pins for pin trading. The park changed its name from MGM Studios to Disney's Hollywood Studios on January 7th of 2008. Keep in mind, folks, that this park has undergone so many changes through the years that it would take hours to discuss all of them. It is the Disney park that has changed the most since opening, and that was due to Imagineers having to essentially change the entire idea and concept of the park, since the movie and television studio idea did not pan out, and it had to be completely converted into a movie and television based theme park. That's not to say that the changes were negative. The park has been extremely popular, being the 9th most visited park in the world, and is actually my favorite out of the 4 main theme parks encompassing Disney World. With all that said, let's take a tour of the park today and highlight some of the incredible rides and experiences. No matter which method of transportation you use, car, bus, monorail, or Skyliner, you will arrive at the main entrance to the park. Walking through the front gates, you will notice Oscar's Super Service to your left. Themed after a 1940s gas station, it sells snacks, toys, and more. This is also where you rent scooters, wheelchairs, and strollers. Directly in front of you is the Crossroads of the world. Since when you first walk in the park, you are on Hollywood Boulevard. This is a Disney-themed replica of the original located on Hollywood Boulevard in California. Coming to the end of Hollywood Boulevard, you can either go to your right, which takes you to Sunset Boulevard, or to your left, which will lead you to Hollywood and Vine, the 50s Primetime Cafe, the front of Echo Lake, and the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular at the end of the path. Let's begin by going left. Hollywood and Vine is a buffet and table service restaurant where you can find Disney characters just to add to the fun. Due to it being a character dining experience, the prices are high. $42 a person for breakfast and $55 for lunch and dinner. That said, I actually recommend the dining location next to it, the 50s Primetime Cafe. This place is incredible. Themed after a classic 1950s family dinner in Mom's kitchen, the tables are set up like dining tables from the era, complete with a black and white TV showing sitcoms from the time period. Everyone is family here, and the service will introduce you as cousins while warning you to keep your elbows off the table and to eat your vegetables. On average, the prices for the 50s Primetime Cafe are about half the price of Hollywood and Vine, and the food is excellent. I had the sampling of Mom's favorite recipes, which included golden fried chicken, pot roast, and a meatloaf. It was $26, but well worth it. I highly recommend this location, and I don't think I will ever come to this park without dining here. Continuing down the path, you will come to the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular. This is a must-do on every visit if and when it returns. On my last visit, it was closed due to the pandemic, and I was so disappointed. This is a live-action stunt show based on the hit movie Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. The show is produced by George Lucas and sees Indiana Jones perform epic stunts, which were seen in the movie, followed by an explanation to the audience of how the stunts were done, including everything from Indy braving dangerous spikes, false floors, booby traps, and explosions. The show opened on August 25th, 1989, and only recently temporarily closed due to the pandemic. The second such time, the show was shut down, with the first being in 2000 for refurbishment. Disney did announce that an updated version of the show would be opening as part of the 50th anniversary celebration. However, on July 25th, 2020, a dispute started between the Actors Equity Association and Walt Disney World. No further news about the show has been released as of the making of this video. Hopefully, it will return, because this is one of the best shows in all of Disney World. Next to Indiana Jones, guests will arrive at Star Tours The Adventure Continues. This one can get a bit confusing. Star Tours was a motion simulator ride which opened with the park in 1989. It was a motion simulator which saw guests taking a ride with the fictional Star Tours travel agency and eventually saw guests encounter the Death Star 3 and destroy it, similarly to how Luke destroyed the Death Star in A New Hope. It has since undergone 2 refurbishments, each based on the same idea of the ride, just with added effects and visuals. It is currently now a 3D motion simulator. So, while it is technically a new ride, it can be said that this ride is also original to the park. The ride experience is also different and randomized, with each ride taking guests through 4 of the 21 randomized scenes. In total, there are over 700 different ride experiences which guests can encounter. A side note is that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were close friends in 1989. Lucas was signed on by Disney, as evidenced by his work being showcased in Disney parks to this day, such as with Indiana Jones and Star Wars. Spielberg is signed on with Universal and helped produce many of the attractions in Universal's parks. Lucas and Spielberg went on Star Tours together, and Lucas bragged that nobody will ever be able to do anything like Star Tours. Spielberg allegedly grinned and eventually created the Back to the Future ride in Universal, which, following years of success, transformed into the Simpsons ride, which exists in Universal Studios today. Next to Star Tours, guests will come to Muppet Vision 3D. The history of this attraction is sad, as it was filmed in January of 1990 and directed by Jim Henson and written by Bill Prady. The show was one of the final Muppet projects with the involvement of Henson and Muppet performer Richard Hunt. Henson died in 1990 before production was complete, and Hunt died in 1992. That being said, the attraction opened in 1991. It is an excellent and hilarious 3D show, which I would strongly encourage everyone to watch at least once. If not for the humor and dazzling 3D effects, then because of the fact that this was one of the final Muppet productions ever done by the legendary Jim Henson. Across the street from Muppet Vision 3D, guests will come to another amazingly themed restaurant, the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater. The entrance is made to look like a box office, and guests sit at Formica countertops in booths made to look like convertibles from the 1940s and 1950s. While eating, guests watch film clips from 1950s and 1960s sci-fi films. Some of the servers wear roller skates and act as car hops, while others improvise characters, such as a police officer searching for people who have snuck into the theater without paying. The theming is really cool, and the food has garnered great reviews. Continuing up the path, you will arrive at the part of the park known as Center Stage, where you will find Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. This is the ride which replaced the Great Movie Ride and is the newest attraction at the park as of the making of this video. Surprisingly, this is the first attraction featuring Mickey Mouse in the Disney parks. It only took close to 50 years, folks. That's not to say that there were never ideas to have a Mickey Mouse-based attraction. In 1976, as part of a proposed Dumbo Circus Land expansion for Fantasyland in Disneyland in California, an attraction called Mickey's Madhouse was in development. That would have been a Wild Mouse-style roller coaster through the world of early black and white Mickey shorts. The shorts which would have been used in that attraction are actually used in Runaway Railway. After going through the queue, guests arrive at an auditorium where they watch a short film called Perfect Picnic, which serves as the introduction to the ride itself. Guests walk through a movie screen at the end, an effect which is another genius example of Disney Imagineering. Then arrive at the railroad station from the short and wait for the train ride vehicle to arrive. The train then departs the station and makes a left turn, passing the park on a musical sunny day before entering a tunnel. Once inside, Goofy opens the locomotive's back window, asking guests if they are ready for a tour around the park. Mickey and Minnie pull alongside the train and exchange greetings. Mickey parks next to a railroad switch lever, and asks Goofy to take care of the guests. Goofy proudly exclaims, "Gosh, they're with me. What could possibly go wrong?" Goofy closes his window afterwards and begins to sing "I've Been Working on the Railroad" when the nearby switch lever fails, disconnecting the cars from Goofy's locomotive, while Mickey realizes he drove into it. The locomotive makes a left, while the cars with guests careen to the right. Mickey and Minnie race after the runaway train. The car exits the tunnel into a desert, with Mickey and Minnie on horses trying to round up the cars. Despite their attempts to help, Mickey and Minnie become tangled in their ropes, with nearby vultures roosting nearby. The cars then enter an amusement park, where Mickey and Minnie float in some balloons. Before they can make their way down, the Twister logo on the side of the park's wooden roller coaster comes to life, sending everything into a frenzy. This tornado, originally planned to be the tornado from The Wizard of Oz, pushes the cars into a dark room with the tornado at its center. Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto are seen swirling around. In the next room, the duo lands on a tropical island where a volcanic eruption occurs. Each of the 4 cars enter a scene where Mickey and Minnie are shown to be caught in a rapid downstream heading toward a waterfall. Guests are seemingly following close behind and fall with them into the water, emerging moments later in an underwater reef. It is filled with a variety of animated sea life, moving to doo-wop music, with some playing instruments and including a blue squid playing his trumpet. The scene then transitions into a sewage system where the water drains away and the cars move into another room depicting the downtown of a large city at night. Pete can be seen with a jackhammer doing construction work and laughing, while Donald Duck is spotted in a delivery van honking at the traffic the train cars are causing. The cars veer left into a room designed as a dance studio, and Daisy Duck leads them into a waltz, followed by a conga. The cars dance their way into a back alley and into a factory, as Minnie warns not to enter. The cars then appear to be stuck on a conveyor belt, moving toward a smashing machine. Mickey and Minnie eventually manage to pull a switch that shuts down the factory and transforms it into a moonlit night at the park. The cars reverse and turn around, moving into another room where Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto are finally having their picnic. The lead car reattaches to the locomotive helmed by Goofy, who tells guests that his guided tour has concluded and thanks them for staying with him. Goofy waves goodbye, closes the back window, and is heard discovering a lever, which he pulls, triggering a small explosion inside his cab, followed by his signature holler, giving riders one last laugh. Guests then leave the station and pass through the same movie screen, returning them to the real world, which now shows the end title card. That was a long description, but this ride features some of the most advanced technology which Disney has ever implemented into an attraction. It is a trackless ride system, and a majority of the scenes use projection mapping to add in effects and simulate a cartoon world. Runaway Railway for me is a bittersweet attraction. I really enjoyed it a lot, and it is a must-do on every visit to the park, but I also really enjoyed the ride which it replaced. The Great Movie Ride was just a classic attraction and will always hold special memories from my childhood. As I said earlier, I will be doing a series called Destination Evolution, and this will be one of the first topics I cover: the Great Movie Ride against Runaway Railway. Next to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is Animation Courtyard. This area of the park is home to attractions created by Walt Disney Animation Studios and includes The Voyage of the Little Mermaid Puppet Show, Disney Junior Dance Party, Walt Disney Presents, which explores the life and legacy of Walt Disney through photos, artifacts, and a short biographical film, and Star Wars Launch Bay, which has behind-the-scenes props and meet and greets with various characters from the franchise. Returning to the end of Hollywood Boulevard, and this time turning right, will take you to Sunset Boulevard. Walking down the street, the first attraction you come to is the Beauty and the Beast live on stage show. It is a Broadway-style show based on the iconic movie, performing live reenactments of the film. Next to Beauty and the Beast live on stage, you will come to a path that will lead you to the amphitheater, which hosts Fantasmic. This nighttime spectacular is incredible. The story of this show is that guests witness a journey through the imagination of Mickey, culminating in a battle against Disney villains. It features fireworks, characters, live actors, water effects, pyrotechnics, lasers, music, audio animatronics, searchlights, decorated boat floats, and mist screen projections. Sadly, this show closed due to the pandemic and is currently listed as temporarily closed. Hopefully, it will return for its 22nd year. If it does, put this show on your list of absolute must-sees. It is truly amazing and is one of the best shows you will ever see anywhere in the world. Next to the path leading you to the amphitheater is a path which will lead you to the iconic Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Standing at 199 feet tall, it is the second tallest attraction at Walt Disney World, next to Expedition Everest. As stated in our Overview of EPCOT video, the back of the tower can be seen from the Morocco Pavilion, which is why the back of the tower was painted to help it blend into the scenery and architecture of Morocco. Guests enter the once luxurious Hollywood Tower Hotel through its main entrance, with the storyline being that guests are booking a room to stay at during their vacation. The queue takes guests through the lobby, which is filled with decades worth of cobwebs, dust, and other items left by guests prior to the incident which caused the hotel to shut down. The queue then takes guests to the library to wait while the rooms are being prepped. Through a window, guests can see a thunderstorm raging outside. Lightning then strikes, and a television set turns on all by itself. The TV shows various scenes from the hit TV show, which the ride is based on. Once in the ride vehicle inside the elevator, guests ascend to various show floors depicting the events which happened to the family who perished at the hotel by a free-falling elevator. A voice then informs guests that they are about to experience the same thing that family did as the ride vehicle moves into position. What results is a free fall that is actually accelerated, making the fall faster than the speed of gravity, causing guests to elevate out of their seats. The drop sequence is randomized, and when at the top, the wall opens up, giving guests an aerial view of the park. Once the ride concludes, guests exit through the passageways in the basement and into a gift shop. This is a legendary Disney ride and shows the true genius of Imagineering, taking a simple free-fall ride concept and elevating it through theming and storytelling, creating an unforgettable experience. Here is my ride video for you to enjoy, and make sure you experience this incredible ride on your next visit. Next to the Tower of Terror is Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith. This is an indoor roller coaster which opened in 1999. The queue sees guests walking into a recording studio for the fictional G-Force Records. The recording studio sees guests standing behind a glass wall as the iconic rock band is rehearsing. Their manager interrupts, saying that the band is late for their concert, and the band says that the guests need backstage passes since their viewing time of watching the band recording their music has been cut short. The manager gets on the phone and orders a super stretch limousine to transport the guests. The guests then move to the loading station, where they enter a coaster car themed like a limousine. The limo stops in front of a highway tunnel, where a highway sign flashes humorous messages like "Traffic bug you, then step on it." Building up anticipation, seconds before the limo is launched, Steven Tyler counts down from 5, launching the limo from 0 to 57 miles per hour in less than 2.8 seconds. As the limo enters the tunnel, the on-ride photo is taken and a selection of Aerosmith songs play. After a long straightway, the limo proceeds to do a sea serpent roll, which is a 2 inversion element, and then some less intense over bank turns. During the ride, there are neon signs on the side of the track designed to mimic road signs. The limo continues along the track until it reaches the 3rd and final inversion, a corkscrew, and ending the ride with more bank turns, as well as a camelback hill. The limo proceeds to the VIP backstage area, where guests exit through the red carpet towards the on-ride photo screens at the gift shop. This ride really makes you feel G-Force, and the track is very well themed and designed. It's not my favorite coaster in the world, but it is one that I always ride. I highly recommend it, as it provides just enough fun to make it worth standing in line for. This now brings us to the 2 newest lands of the park: Toy Story Land and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Going back up Sunset Boulevard and behind Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway will take you to the entrance of Toy Story Land. The first attraction you will come to is Toy Story Mania. This attraction is essentially the evolution of Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin, being an interactive shooting dark ride, this time in 4D. This ride originally opened in 2008 when the land was called Pixar Place, before the land was rethemed to Toy Story Land. The ride is comprised of multiple minigames, such as pie throw practice, Ham and Eggs, Rex and Tricky's Dino Darts, Green Army Men Shoot Camp, Buzz Lightyear's Flying Tossers, and Woody's Rootin' Tootin' Shootin' Gallery. It is a lot of fun, and if you go to all the parks in Orlando, you can literally see the evolution of this ride concept, from Men in Black and Universal, to Space Ranger Spin in Magic Kingdom, to this attraction. Continuing on up the path, you will come to Slinky Dog Dash. Opening in 2018 and replacing the Eiffel Tower Monument, it is one of the most popular rides at the park. It is a steel coaster, with the story being that Andy has built a roller coaster using his Dash and Dodge Mega Coaster Kit, and decided to use Slinky Dog as the ride vehicle. The coaster has 2 launches and reaches speeds up to 40 miles per hour. While it is not as good as the Rock and Roller Coaster, it is a fun coaster and usually has really long wait times. The theming of the coaster makes guests feel as though they are toys in Andy's room, and as long as you do not mind the long wait, it is an attraction that is worth your time to experience. Continuing on the path, you will come to Alien Swirling Saucers. Unless you have little children, this is a skip, as you can find many rides similar to this throughout Disney parks, especially in Magic Kingdom. The path will bring you to one of the 2 entrances to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. The story of the land is that you have gone to the Black Spire Outpost on the planet Batuu. Based on the new trilogy, the First Order has control of this planet, and the use of lightsabers is strictly forbidden. If you want a lightsaber, you will have to find the hidden location known as Savvy's Workshop, where you can construct your own lightsaber for the price of $199.99. Galaxy's Edge has numerous themed dining and shopping locations. I tried blue milk with alcohol, and it was a little strong for my taste, but a lot of people seem to enjoy it. There is also a Droid Depot, which, similar to Savvy's Workshop, is a place where you can build your own droid for $99.99. Galaxy's Edge has 2 rides, Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run and Rise of the Resistance. Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run is almost like a combination of Star Tours and Mission Space in EPCOT. Like Mission Space, riders are assigned a job, a pilot, a gunner, or an engineer. Lasting 4.5 minutes, the ride takes a guest on a mission led by Hondo Ohnaka and R5-P8 to steal precious cargo from the First Order TIE fighters. How well each rider performs determines the success of the mission. Furthermore, any damage inflicted to the ship during the run will affect the lighting conditions in the exit corridor. While it is a fun ride, I had to wait 2 hours for a ride that sort of felt like a letdown. Only the pilot seems to truly interact with the ride, as the rest of the riders are delegated to simply pushing buttons. I think for what it is, it's good, but there are other attractions at the park which are worth prioritizing your time over. This finally brings us to what is, in my opinion, the best ride at any Disney park, and possibly the best ride in the world: Rise of the Resistance. The ride begins with Finn explaining how to get to the escape pods. The two transports exit the loading station, where they pass two other empty transports heading into the loading station, with Beck speaking to the riders through the transport's radio. They enter another room where a probe droid nearly spots them. However, when about to reach two lifts, two stormtroopers spot the guests. The stormtroopers attempt to blast at the transports, but fail as the transports escape. They enter the next room, which includes AT-ATs. The door leading out of the room closes before the transports can pass through. The stormtroopers spot the transports again and attempt to blast at them. An audio animatronic Finn in a stormtrooper suit helps the guests as the transports split up and enter two lifts. Finn tells them to go down, but they go up instead. One of the vehicles is spotted by an AT-AT pilot and is almost blasted. In the next room, audio animatronic figures of Kylo Ren and General Hux are seen atop the ship's bridge discussing the situation. Suddenly, a resistance ship fleet appears and Ren notices the transports. The riders attempt to escape, but Ren jumps down in front of them and ignites his lightsaber as the transports enter two lifts, but the doors close in front of them before Ren can get to them. As the lifts go down, Kylo's lightsaber suddenly cuts through the ceiling as they escape. The riders then enter a room with three cannons firing at the resistance, which they pass under and make it into the next room, where an audio animatronic Ren uses the force on the transports, demanding that they tell him the whereabouts of the resistance base. Suddenly, a burning TIE fighter crashes into a Star Destroyer, creating a breach in the wall behind Ren, and he is almost blown out into space as debris falls over him. The transports enter the next room and enter the escape pods, where the ride turns into a motion simulator. After two other pods eject, the riders' pods undergo a sudden vertical drop and escape back onto Batuu. The transports exit the simulator and enter the hangar, where an audio animatronic Beck is seen in his escape pod, having just crash landed in the base. They then enter the unload station, where the ride ends. Describing this ride here truly does not give it justice. It is incredible. The audio animatronics are some of the most realistic Disney has ever produced. The technology and utilization of the trackless ride system is flawless. The visuals, especially standing in the room with all the stormtroopers, will leave any Star Wars fan in absolute amazement. The immersion of the story truly makes you feel as if you have just stepped right into the Star Wars universe. This ride alone is well worth the price of admission to the park. It is simply flawless and really elevates Galaxy's Edge, which, to be honest, I feel is really lackluster. Speaking of that, I think that Galaxy's Edge overall just does not live up to the hype. It was designed as a counter to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, but it falls short. The first issue is that it is based on the new trilogy. The new trilogy was a huge disappointment to Star Wars fans, and I really think they should have based the land on the original trilogy, which is still immensely popular despite being released in the 70s. The second issue is that it's set on a planet which has never appeared in any of the films, unlike the Wizarding World, which is set in locations that have been seen in the movies and are way more relatable. If not for the amazing rise of the Resistance, this land would be a skip, even for hardcore Star Wars fans. So there you have it, folks. A history and overview of Disney's Hollywood studios. As I said earlier, it is my favorite of all the parks at Walt Disney World. It just has so many great attractions, like Runaway Railway, Muppet Vision 3D, the Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster, and especially Rise of the Resistance, which, like I said, is worth the price of admission alone. It also has some of the best shows when they are running, like the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular and Fantasmic. While I do miss some of the old attractions, like the Great Movie Ride and Backlot Tour, I feel that Disney has done an excellent job with the attractions which replace them. Remember, if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss any future content. And if you enjoyed this video, you have to watch the other videos in the Destinations Discovery series, Discovering the Magic Kingdom and Overview of EPCOT. With that said, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time.